Hi, it's Kiffin Lobates here, and in this second video on ERC-4337, my current favorite topic concerning the Ethereum ecosystem, I thought I'd talk a bit about how ERC-4337 can provide quantum secure digital signing on the Ethereum blockchain, and as an added bonus, I'll explain why it's actually irrelevant because it won't quantum secure the Ethereum blockchain. So in the previous video, I'll put a link to it in the comments below, or rather in the description below, I was talking about how ERC-4337 at its fundamental level allows you to design and deploy protocol changes to the Ethereum blockchain without having to make changes to the base code, therefore providing all sorts of flexibility for different entities to implement different consensus protocols and authorization schemes without having to convince the Ethereum community at large to adopt and accept them. And one of the things that might make you think is, hey, doesn't that mean we could use ERC-4337 to implement quantum secure digital signing on the Ethereum blockchain, thus making Ethereum quantum secure, which is a big deal because we appear to be approaching a period of time where quantum computing will allow people out there to break ECDSA, the elliptic curve digital signing algorithm, because ECDSA uses algebraic methods to provide digital signatures, and quantum computing allows the solution of those algebraic problems much more rapidly than conventional computers do, making it feasible to find private keys if public keys are known. So this is seen as a big problem. It's not just blockchain that will suffer, it's the banking industries and computer authentication systems in general. They're all going to suffer because we've been using quantum insecure digital signing algorithms for decades, and our whole infrastructure is built on the idea that you can identify who somebody is using digital signing algorithms that will no longer be secure. So it's kind of like waking up one day and finding that you can just go down and buy a printer and print your own money without the security systems put into the money now are no longer good enough for these cheap ubiquitous printers to not be able to replicate. So it is going to be a problem. Whether it's a year away or 10 years away or 20 years away, nobody seems to really know, but it will arrive eventually. And therefore, best to be safe rather than sorry, it would be good to see blockchains moving to quantum secure digital signing. And when I talked about ERC-4337 in the previous video, I talked about how there was this component called the Account Abstraction wallet. And one of the neat things that you can implement in an Account Abstraction wallet is an authentication system that doesn't use ECDSA. You can have transactions submitted to Ethereum through the ERC-4337 architecture that have a digital signature that is verified by one of these account abstraction wallets, and that account abstraction wallet could require some other digital signing algorithm. So if you wanted to, you could switch to the RSA digital signing algorithm or some other method for authentication and identification, and therefore you could implement one of the quantum secure signature algorithms such as Sphinx or Falcon or dilithium crystals. Was it crystals, dilithium? I can never remember. Anyway, and that surely would give you a quantum secure Ethereum blockchain. Well, not exactly, because firstly, the bundle of transactions that I mentioned before that are submitted to the entry point on the Ethereum blockchain by a bundler have to be submitted using the base protocol, and that will not have changed. So that will still be ECDSA. So therefore, even though your individual transactions are now secure, the transactions of the bundler are still not secure. They still rely on that base Ethereum protocol and therefore on ECDSA. So there is going to need to be a change at the base protocol level as well, and that will require the whole community to agree that, hey, we're going to use this quantum secure digital signing algorithm rather than one of the other ones. So it's not going to be easy. And the second thing is that your account abstraction wallet is not going to change the validation system that Ethereum uses. There are still going to be validators out there that are validating the blocks and that are signing the blocks that are proposed or attesting to them. And those use something called a BLS signature, which is also a quantum insecure signature. And I hope I'm remembering the acronym correctly. I'm pretty sure it's BLS. BLS is a digital signing algorithm that has some superficial properties in common with elliptic curve cryptography, in that it uses elliptic curves, but its primary design is to allow you to aggregate signatures so that you can verify a whole bunch of signatures in one go by just verifying one thing, to keep the amount of data required for potentially hundreds of attestation signatures, not requiring hundreds of verifications, being able to do it in just one step. And BLS is also not quantum secure. So some kind of signature aggregation system that is quantum secure is going to be required to allow the blockchain to tick along with blocks arriving and being validated, in Ethereum's case, every 12 seconds or so. And at the moment, research into aggregated quantum secure digital signatures is not particularly advanced. There are some algorithms out there that have been proposed and that are being investigated, but to the best of my knowledge, none of those have been approved by NIST. That's the American government entity that spends its life looking at cryptographic systems and saying whether or not it thinks they're secure. And the industry as a whole takes their opinions very, very seriously. So if NIST says that this digital signing algorithm is acceptable and secure under these conditions, then we all take it for granted that they've done their research and that's correct. And they haven't made such a statement about a quantum secure signature aggregating algorithm yet. So we're still stuck, therefore, with the problem that both the way in which transactions are injected into Ethereum and the way in which Ethereum blocks are validated and added to the blockchain are currently quantum insecure, and there is no easy way to change that because it requires a base protocol level change. And therefore you're stuck with the problem, which is if you go ahead and deploy a quantum secure account abstraction wallet and advertise that your transactions are quantum secure, well, those individual transactions will then be quantum secure, but unfortunately the system as a whole is not, and therefore there is no guarantee that when quantum computers are good enough, they won't bring down the whole system. So it's kind of like saying I've built an earthquake resistant form of brick and mortar, and therefore I can build earthquake resistant houses, but the people providing the foundations on which to build houses have not managed to produce earthquake resistant foundations, and therefore you end up with a house where the walls and roof will not collapse in an earthquake, but the thing that it's standing on will, and therefore the whole thing is not earthquake resistant. And exactly the same thing is going on in Ethereum when it comes to providing quantum security through account abstraction wallets and ERC-4337. Anyway, that's today's video on why ERC-4337 only provides one piece to the puzzle of making Ethereum quantum secure, and the other two pieces that are required cannot be fixed with ERC-4337 and will require a totally different approach, one that is going to be a lot more harder to design and push through the committees that decide how Ethereum is going to progress. I hope you found that interesting. I certainly think it's a fascinating topic, and I hope you'll join me some point in the future for my next video, where I will probably be talking a bit more about ERC-4337 because it's what I'm looking at the moment. That's it for now. See you in the next video soon. Bye.